Enough is enough! I have had it!
Why so serious?
And we hold the world ransom for
Wayne Gandy.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Show me that.
Broadcasting live in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the Sports Joc Show with Wayne Gandy.
You may build me up, yeah, can you build me up, yeah. You won't break me down, I've come too far, yeah, I've come too far, yeah. So just throw in the towel, hey. It's a new day, I'ma do it, yeah, I'm gonna go all the way. You may build me up.
We're talking about Peppers and why he's not gonna make it because he's on the lean.
Stage
and the
one.
Molly. Listen, the guy's not going to make it, okay?
Not going to make what?
He's not going to make it through the season.
Why?
I
Why do you
told
say
Hammer
that?
last week he's another
Can
Josh
I ask
Gordon.
why you guys are burying this kid already?
I know a little
Am
more.
I going to stick up? I got to be the one to stick up for him? I will. Why are you burying? Can you
shouldn't.
give the kid a chance?
I'm telling
Please.
you, I've seen it firsthand, Riz, from a different vantage point. And it's the same thing all over again. How are you already high out of your mind and you've only been here for a week?
Who is high out of their mind?
Peppers.
Welcome back to the Sports Joc Show. I'm the Sports Joc, Wayne Gandy. Good morning to you out there. iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker. You can also go to the Sports Joc page. That's joc.com and catch the show. The funny man, Big Kenny, in the building. Ravishing Ray on the Macked Out Mac. You can hit us up at 888-926-7562 or 404-603-8770. That clip is something that we played last week. Interesting story. We always like to bring these stories on air, just showing how our country, in a lot of ways, right or wrong, sometimes you don't even want to hear the real truth on air, or you definitely don't want to hear the personality person say what they might really feel, because who would want that in America, to really hear a person's true opinion? We have Miss Sabrina Parr on the line. She is a young lady working at ESPN who was fired for her comments, maybe a little too real for most of us, but I love people who speak with conviction, and that is what you heard in the clip. Good morning to you, Sabrina.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. When you hear that clip, I'll start there. Regret, or you're comfortable with putting that out there?
I've heard it several times, and actually every time I hear it, I still laugh. And I know that pains people to hear me say that I'm laughing, but I really feel like if they listen to the entire show, that they will understand why I feel that way, because a lot of it was coming out in a joking way, but I do stand 100% behind what I said. As far as your question of regret, moving forward, I do regret in the way that I said it, the words I chose to use. I could have used words such as substances, which I think wouldn't have sounded as bad.
Right.
And I think people are just really upset that I had the courage to make those quote-unquote allegations. But like I said, I know what I know, and I feel like people would have felt differently if I would have gave supporting facts behind what I said. And I didn't think that was necessary when we were already having a discussion about a player that was already in the media for having a diluted drug sample.
Do you think it was a lot regarding that it was more of a Cleveland Browns broadcast system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you've played against the Browns, whether we're good or bad, and since I've been alive, we've been bad. These fans, it's like a cult, and, it's almost like, how dare I say anything against our first-round pick, like, who am I to say that? When I really, truly felt like I was just, speaking from my position of being a broadcaster. It wasn't like I came on the show and broke news that, he has a possible drug issue. It was already on the news, and that's why we were speaking on it. And, I wasn't the only one on the show that felt the way I felt. But because I think I chose such vulgar words and really went into detail is why I initially, ended up getting fired.
And I will give you this on that, Sabrina, because I played with the Steelers for 4 years, and the Browns always spoke as though there was a rivalry, and I thought you had to win to have a rivalry. And
No, not here. You just got to not like the team, and that makes it a rivalry. I was an athlete and still am myself, but, I understand what rivalries are, and it's when two teams are good, really good, maybe the best in that conference or league, and, when the game arrives, it's going to be a really good game because the teams are so well. Well, not here. It's just we love the Browns and we hate the Steelers. That's just what it is. I think it's almost a jealousy thing. And don't get me wrong, I am a Browns fan, but I am a realist, and if more than anything, I was upset when this news broke about Jabril because I felt like, here we go again. Mm-hmm. We've drafted a number one, a first rounder again that is already having an issue. Whether it continues to be an issue or not, the first thing I hear about my Browns before they even step foot for minicamp, I don't want it to be possible drug use, and I think what a lot of listeners don't realize is that I am a young female. We frequent a lot of the places that the players – I frequent a lot of places that the players are. I'm friends, and associates with some of the guys. So when I say I know things, I don't know why everyone is so upset that I could possibly know what I'm saying. And I think any reporter or, analyst or whatever speaks from what they know, not just from what they read. If I only spoke from what I read, I wouldn't be educated, at all as far as reviewing these athletes.
So your passion really stems from being a fan of the Browns, and they once again go and draft someone who already walked in the door with a questionable past. Is that what I'm kind of hearing?
Well, I don't think that his past was questionable because, Jabril and a lot of his team pointed out that he's never had a failed drug test previously. And then I went on to say that means nothing. Neither did Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was totally clean on paper in college. And you see what he gave us as a professional football player. And then I also spoke as saying, I was a college athlete. And there are certain things they will make sure they do to keep you on the field or whatever it is that you choose to play. And Michigan being such a dynamic school and needing him, I'm not going to say, that's what they were doing, but I'm just saying that having a clean record in college doesn't mean anything moving forward as a professional. A lot of people are upset about that, and those are just my truth. When I quoted in the audio that I will add that they edited, chopped, and glued things together, it wasn't the original audio, but anyways, when I mentioned, I've experienced it firsthand and I've been here before, that meant several things, meaning I've had experience with these type of situations. I've had to take drug tests myself. I've been, relationally involved with an NFL player that went through the drug program, was fined multiple times and getting random tests. So I kind of understand how it goes. And for me, to see a guy that was unprepared, I don't care how he explains it, you were unprepared for the biggest interview of your life. You should have known drinking all of that water was going to give you a diluted sample, which then would have resulted in you being on the first stages of the drug program. I don't know why he wasn't informed of that, but if that's truly what he did, I think that was, being unprepared for the combine. And then to say because he was ill and he has a history of cramping, well, then if he has a history of cramping, why has he never had a diluted sample before? You get what I'm saying? I went on to say that I thought that these were excuses. These are all actions of a person that had possibly drank too much water to prevent a failed drug test. People do that all the time. It's just the truth of the matter. And then he came out after my allegations and said he's never done those drugs. He never said he didn't do any drugs. And then he moved forward to not sign his rookie agreement, which you can speculate means a lot of different things. So people are so upset at me, but if you really pay attention to what he's saying and his actions and the fact that he was the one that had to dilute a sample, you could consider that there was some possible truth to what I was saying. And I'm just not going to go out and say, this is why I know specifically what I said, because it gets too many other parties involved. And I don't think it's necessary. At the end of the day, I was working for ESPN Radio, and that was my opinion based on my vantage point, and I stand behind that. One thing I regret is how they tried to make it seem like I was accusing Joe Thomas of the same thing, which was nothing but a joke. We were just laughing and just having a good conversation as we typically do on the show. And I meant no harm because I really don't feel that way, and I have no proof of that.
Sabrina, good morning. This is Big Kenny. Thank you for joining us, first of all. And earlier you said that some people seem to be offended by the fact that you didn't offer any supporting evidence to your allegations. You just said that some of the vulgar language, the Molly, the lean references. When I heard diluted sample, being, I guess, not as informed about some of these things, the first thing that came to my mind was marijuana use. When you use the terms lean and the Molly, those are narcotics from my understanding. Did you not feel any responsibility, or you said you didn't feel a need to offer any supporting evidence when you level an allegation like that about a person's character and their personal and drug use? You didn't feel any need to support that with hardcore evidence?
The thing was, I had a conversation with my co-host prior to the show because we knew we were going to be discussing that topic. And we all believed it was okay to move forward without the supporting evidence. Okay. The reason why lean and Molly even came up is because one of my co-hosts was explaining, these guys have been doing drugs, from the beginning of time. They used to snort coke. And I said, they don't do that anymore. The drug of choice has changed for this generation. And that's when I brought up, they do lean now, and they do Molly, and he didn't understand. He didn't know what these things were. So we defined it on the show. We Googled it in the Urban Dictionary, explained it. That's how the words even came about. And what I was also explaining is, they don't just do marijuana by itself anymore. I mean, it's just the honest truth. They add things to it. It's almost as if they don't get high enough off of it anymore. And whether people want to believe it or not, it's just what's happening. Now, because there are players that use these type of substances, and particularly marijuana, you just have to be smart enough to know when to use it and when not to use it so that you're not getting negative tests or diluted samples or whatever it may be. My thing was, even like you mentioned, the first thing you thought about was marijuana use. Even if it was marijuana, it's still a drug, it's still illegal, and it still will prevent him from being on the field. That is where, my anger came in, because we just lost our top receiver, which is arguably one of the biggest busts of history with the Cleveland Browns, and I'm referring to Josh Gordon, and that is who I compared him to. I also, years back, came out and said, before Josh Gordon proved to us that he wasn't going to be on the field, that I didn't think he was going to make it either. They called me a hater. They called me Negative Nancy. But I just kept saying, you know what? I've seen this type of behavior. I've seen this routine. And I just really feel like the guy is a drug addict. And then he eventually came out and voluntarily went to rehab. So I didn't get many apologies for that. I didn't get many, oh, wow, she knew what she was talking about then. But I don't think why people are not even a little concerned. If the vice president of the Browns came out and said, this is a concern for him, he didn't say, oh, it's just water, so we're good. He's concerned about it. I don't think that he would make such a broad statement if it was just water. That is my opinion. But to go back to your question, at the time, no, I really didn't feel responsible for that because of the way that the words lean and Molly came into the conversation, which was not included in the audio, and how we were just kind of defining what they used, what they're doing now. I didn't feel that way.
Was
Listening back on,
was that edited
What'd you say?
when you said he's on the lean, he's on the Molly? Did they edit that way? That's not how you originally said it.
Oh no, that was a true statement.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, you would have to have listened to the entire show. First of all, I said the lean, and that's grammatically incorrect,
right.
Which means that maybe it stemmed from another previous conversation or a joke we just told or something of that nature. Okay. But again, because of what I know and what I've experienced, I know a lot of these guys are not just using marijuana by itself, okay? And I think people just don't want me to say that because it's, there are kept secrets in these organizations, and it's, and I think the reason they're saying that I'm saying it is so wrong. I have nothing against that man. I'm an athlete myself. I played on the college level and professionally. I'm concerned about the focus of the player, the seriousness of the job. I feel like the Browns get a lot of players that just don't care. They do whatever they want to do. We can just go on and on about the quality of players that we've drafted in the first round and what they really contributed to the team. And I am angry about the whole situation. I didn't mean any ill intent. I was giving my opinion, again, based on what I knew. And I still, to this day, don't feel it's important enough for me to say why I know what I know. If I came out and said I saw the guy, they would find a reason to negate that and say, well, she's lying. She never saw him. So it didn't matter, I think, what I said. The fact that I had the courage to come out and say it at all is what really bothers people.
Well, Sabrina, thank you for calling in and helping us out with the show. You have given me more and clear understanding of this whole situation, and it sounds like Sabrina got fired mainly because she had an opinion about a Browns-type broadcast, right. And that's a no-no. Thank you, Sabrina Parr. We'll be back with more of the Sports Joc.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll be back with more of the Sports Joc Show right after this.
Don't go away. More of the Sports Joc Show with Wayne Gandy is coming up next.